Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, Sow, Grow, Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of Sow, Grow, Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast, which is dedicated to nonprofit leaders who are passionate about making a difference. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on a journey of growth, inspiration, and transformation. At Lead with Heart, we believe that leading with heart means embracing empathy, compassion, and authenticity in every aspect of our work. It's about putting people first, fostering genuine connections, and creating a positive impact that goes beyond numbers and metrics. In the nonprofit world, it can often feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The challenges are immense and the road can be lonely. But here, you're not alone. This podcast is a community where we support each other, share our stories, and learn together. Each episode will dive into personal and professional development topics tailored specifically for nonprofit leaders. From innovative fundraising strategies and effective team management to self-care practices and leadership insights, we're here to provide you with practical strategies that you can apply to your life and work. My goal is to empower you, elevate your leadership, and engage your heart in all that you do. I want to help you navigate the unique challenges of the nonprofit sector with confidence and resilience, so you can continue to create meaningful change in the world. So whether you're driving to a meeting, taking a break, or winding down for the day, tune in and join us on this journey. Together we'll discover what it truly means to lead with heart. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lead with Heart podcast. This is your host, Haley Cooper, and I am very excited and honored to have Jeff, who is the principal and owner of Veritus Group. I have been following them for a while, and yes, it is 2025, so that's no longer creepy, but have taken some of their courses. And the Veritus Group is a global consulting agency specializing in major gifts and mid-level fundraising strategy. With over 30 years in this sector, Jeff is a pioneer of relationship-centered fundraising, and under his leadership, since 2009, Veritus has helped increase mid and major gift revenue and decrease donor value attrition for hundreds of nonprofits worldwide that have adopted the Veritus way of mid and major gifts. Well, welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Thanks, Haley. It's great to be here. Happy to be here.
So I would love to know a little bit more about Veritus Group. Can you tell us a little bit more about the purpose, the value behind it, and why you focus on specifically mid and major gifts?
Well, if I really go back to the origins of Veritus, it really started with the founder and my previous business partner, Richard Perry. He owned a direct response agency based in Seattle called a Domain Group, which was a direct response fundraising agency serving all kinds of large nonprofits all over the country. And one of the things he and his business partner at the time noticed that a lot of the clients that they were doing really good work on the direct response side, their major gift programs were either just floundering or they just didn't have one. And Richard Perry had spent a number of years as a development director for a really large international development nonprofit and knew that there's something here that needs to be addressed. And so he took the discipline of direct response fundraising, which was all around looking at data to help determine strategies for clients, and then also the whole structure of planning and knowing exactly when you had to do different things and having a real strong strategic plan for each individual package you were going to send out and all of those. He took all of that information and applied it towards major gifts. And he put a structure to it, meaning he created a portfolio, and then the donors each would have a 12-month communication plan. They'd be tiered. They would have revenue goals attached to every donor. And that hadn't really been done before. This was like in the mid-90s. And started applying some of these principles to the clients and saw tremendous results because of it. The whole idea was, if you could put a structure to this, you'd allow the major gift officer to have the time to build authentic relationships with donors. And that's the whole thing. That's what you're trying to do. But you need a plan to be able to do that. And previously, major gifts was like the Wild West. It's like, hey, let's just take out someone for dinner or lunch and we'll talk about what we're doing, and they'll love us so much that they'll write us a big check. Well, that works sometimes, but it wasn't strategic. And so that was really the origins of what we call today the Veritus Way, the structure we apply towards a major or mid-level gift program. They sold Domain in 2005 and sold it to a larger agency for direct response. We worked with them for another couple of years, but it really wasn't a great cultural fit. And then Richard and I, we worked together at Domain for a long time, and we were friends. And we both came from a nonprofit background where we both were development directors who loved doing major gifts. So we said, let's come together and really help serve that sector of the nonprofit space, because we didn't see a whole lot of, at the time, companies working with nonprofits, helping them do major gifts well. In my living room in 2009, we came together and took his little consultancy that he had and rebranded it Veritus Group. And that was really the launch of it. And that was just the two of us. And we were just at that time, just trying to connect with the organizations that we had connections with because of our direct response days. And we started bringing in a couple of clients. And then soon after, we started writing about major gifts. And we created a blog in 2011. And we figured out how to put it up on WordPress and just did it ourselves. And we maybe had 10 subscribers to our blog. But we just kept at it. We wrote 3 times a week and just kept doing it. And we started getting 100 people, 200 people, 500 people. And then we started getting people calling us to say, hey, we need some help on major gifts. And that has turned into, we now have 40,000 subscribers to our blogs, our podcasts, our white papers. We've written a couple of books since all of them. And it was all launched really from writing about what we do and telling people how to do it. We believe that the more you give out, the more comes back to you. It's the law of the universe. The more we give of ourselves, the more that comes back to us. And that's certainly what has happened to Veritus over the years, is we've given a lot of what we know free, just through our writings, through our white papers, putting on free webinars. We believe in getting great information out. And some people want to learn more, and some don't, but that's okay. But that's really how we started. And since then, we've worked with hundreds of organizations, small, medium, large. Internationally, we have an office in Spain and the UK that are working with organizations there. And it's all simply this Veritus Way thing that we do, which is really build a structure on a major gift program. And then we have what we call client experience leaders that coach the mid-level or the major gift officer on an ongoing basis. So they're working with them every week to ensure that their strategies, that their revenue goals, that they stay focused and accountable to all of that. And that's the secret of major gift success. It's not some crazy strategy. It's not something you've never heard of. It really is about discipline. Because when you have that discipline approach to it, that's when you have the opportunity to have the time to really understand who donors are. Because as a major gift officer, everything you're about is trying to figure out the donor's passions and interests and how it relates to everything you're doing at your nonprofit and bringing that together. So the frontline fundraiser, they're that bridge. I often call them brokers of love. That's what a major gift officer is. They're bringing the need and the donor's passions together. And when that happens, that's when the donor finds joy and when a problem gets alleviated because of it. That's why I say any frontline fundraiser, it's the greatest job in the world, because every day you get to be that person that brings a donor together who wants to do something good in the world and a problem that needs to be helped. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And yes, I have consumed a lot of your free content. So thank you for putting that out and your white papers when I was in-house and, new to fundraising, but also experienced in it as well.
Yeah.
There's not that many resources out there. So to have something to reference, and we'll link to that in the show notes so other people who are listening to this can reference it as well. And also, I always said, like, my favorite part of fundraising was when it's like you see the click in the person's eyes and they start talking about all the ways that they can help solve the problem.
That's
and
right.
all the people that can get involved and start fundraising on behalf, like doing your job for you almost, right?
Yeah.
But it's because there was alignment there with their donors and passions, the problem you're trying to solve, and then being able to co-create that vision of how you can solve it together.
That's right. Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about, is there a difference between major and mid-level gifts? And are the approaches or the plans or the structures different to how you approach each sector or segment, I should say, of donors?
Well, the big difference between mid and major, of course, is the level of giving that a donor, in a sense, becomes part of either a major gift portfolio or a mid-level portfolio. And it varies based on the size of the organization. So we've worked with organizations that a major gift is $50,000 and above, cumulative in 1 year. And mid-level was somewhere like $10 to $49.99, that area. But then we have organizations where a major gift is $1,000 cum and above. And mid-level might be $250 to $999. So it really depends on the organization, and really looking at your data, you can find out where those sweet spots are with mid and major gifts by really looking at your pipeline report that most CRMs can provide based on cum levels. Like, how many donors do you have in that 1,000 to 9,999, which is typically the most where we see most mid-level programs in. And then 10,000 and above would be major gifts. So that's how we determine it, whether it's mid or major. And the differences really are, first of all, the similarities are both of them have a structure to it. So in major gifts, you would have a portfolio of no more than 150 donors. In that portfolio, you would tier them A, B, and C. You would then have a revenue goal attached to every donor in that portfolio, along with a strategic plan over the next 12 months for how are you going to obtain the goal. So that's the structure for major gifts. The structure essentially for mid-level is around 500 to 700 donors in a portfolio. You would still tier those A, B, and C, but then you would have a communication plan that overlays on top of the direct response communication plan, that you wouldn't do it by individual, but you would do it by tier. So A tier would have these 8 different touches throughout the year. B and C would have these different touches. And it's mostly, if you think about A level would be most personalized, C level less personalized. But what you're doing in mid-level is, for the first time, you're really introducing the donor to a new type of relationship with your organization. Because typically they've been cultivated through direct response communication. They get acquired through the mail or through email, and then they're being cultivated similarly, right? Through newsletters, and they're not really connecting with a human being. But the mid-level, once they start reaching those areas of higher giving, mid-level is where they're introduced to a rep, someone that's interested in who they are. So the donor's like, oh, this is different. Somebody's calling me, asking me why I care about their organization. So the relationship starts to change. And then hopefully you're trying to move as many of those mid-level donors into major groups.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when it comes to being a major gift officer, are there certain key characteristics that one has to have? Is it something that's innate that they already have, or is it something that they can learn? Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs. Helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more.
Well, both, I would say. So there's some things that are innate and strengths that lend themselves to being a major gift officer. They love people. They love getting results through their own efforts. So think of like the attributes of a really good salesperson, very similar to the attributes of a major gift officer or a mid-level officer. These are people who love to connect with people and show them a vision for something and move them towards making that gift. And that's what they're excited about. And in mid-level, they have to be really great on the phone and in great communication skills. Everyone has to have great communication skills, but they also, what I think all of them need is to be very curious. People who are super curious do really well in mid and major gifts because they're always trying to learn more about the donor. Not only just what are their passions and interests, but why? Tell me your story. Why do you care about our organization, about feeding kids? And you can get to that story of, well, one day when I was 5 years old, we didn't have food and we had to rely on a food bank. And I'll never forget that. And I knew that one day if I had the means, I was going to help do something about that. But you don't know, you have to be curious to be able to get there and earn that donor's trust to be able to tell you that story.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where like the structure that you provide, right, can free up people to have the capacity to get curious and ask those questions. And
Yes.
recently I've been just fascinated by people's stories. And it's like it's just a simple question of inviting them into a safe space where they can share. And then it like brings a whole new light to the person, right? And you're like, oh, you have been through so much, or your life is so fascinating. And then you can connect on a deeper level, whether you have commonalities or not, but you can get more curious and ask more questions. And I think there's such power in discovering the story behind a person.
Yeah. Your donors want to be known. That's one thing. We all want to be known. You think about any time, let's say you go into your favorite restaurant and the person at the host knows your name and knows the table that you love and says, I reserved your table, the one by the window that you always loved. I just knew you'd love to have that. Then they come around to get your order and they already know what your drink order is. That's a really cool feeling to walk into a restaurant and have people know everything about you like that. Yeah. And it's the same thing with donors. They want to be known. And if you can relay back to them things that you know about them, things that you bring up about their lives, they're going to trust in you. They're going to trust that organization. So this is a huge key in all of this, is the idea that donors want to be known. We need to serve these donors well and care for them.
Yeah, I just posted about that on LinkedIn today because I self-published a book last year and I keep getting LinkedIn DMs that say first name from the company asking me if I want to write a book. And I invested thousands of dollars into this company, but it's like, you don't know me and you're not supporting my journey after the fact. It was just like, I had to invest thousands of dollars to publish the book. And then it doesn't make you feel good or make you want to recommend the company when at least they can fact check their LinkedIn DMs to include my name, right?
I know.
It does make a significant difference. And
Huge
I think
difference.
there's ways that you can personalize in meaningful ways. And I think I want to talk a little bit about building a culture of philanthropy within an organization, because I think some of those touch points or the way that we approach major and mid-level gifts and donors starts from within. Yes. And I think many organizations struggle with integrating fundraising into their culture. So how can nonprofit leaders help every team member, regardless of their role, understand that donors are not just funders, but essential partners in the mission?
Yeah. So I would first step back with that leader and say, tell me what your mission is. And if they only tell me about the thing that they're doing to help change the world, for example, well, our mission is to feed hungry children in the Sudan. Let's just say that's our mission. I would say that's only 1/4 of your mission. I think about when a nonprofit first starts. There's usually one person or a group of people that are really passionate about alleviating some kind of problem, right? You think about all the nonprofits. What was their origin? Somebody saw that there was a problem and they said, we got to do something about it. So they started something, right? But it goes beyond just that problem that they're solving as their mission. The minute that you ask someone to help you solve that as a volunteer, or you bring on a staff person, they also become part of that mission as well. Your staff becomes part of the mission. And then the minute that you ask one person for $1 even to support the mission, they also become part of your mission. It's not just, again, the thing that you're doing to change the world. It's your staff, it's your donors, and it's the community in which you're trying to help. How are you involving the community into this? Is it something that we're just doing to help them? Or are you bringing that community up, and are they also stakeholders, no matter where that community is in your nonprofit's mission? Those are all those areas. So if you really believe that, if donors were part of your mission, if staff were, so think about it. If donors are really part of our mission, we are going to make sure that our program people understand that they need to report on impact, because our donors are stakeholders. They're part of our mission too. They're trying to find joy in their giving. We're responsible for that. Part of that responsibility is reporting back the impact of their gifts. It's also, it goes back to looking at your staff as part of your mission. When you have a major gift officer who's doing so well and is bringing in a lot of revenue because they're really good at building those relationships, but yet you have something in your organization that says, well, you can't make any more than this, or else you'll have to become a manager, or you'll have to do this, so we can't pay you well. And so you see a lot of nonprofits who don't look at their staff as part of their mission. They don't pay them well. And that's why we see so much turnover, because the nonprofit has not embraced the idea that their staff are also part of their mission. We need to take care of these people who have said, we love what you do that helped change the world, and we're going to be part of this. Well, you have a responsibility as a leader to take care of those people, just like you taking care of those donors. So if you start from that premise, that whole ecosystem of a nonprofit is all your mission. It would change what you do and how you look at this. So from there, if you had that ethos about your nonprofit, then you would have a culture of philanthropy because everyone in the organization would understand the importance of donors, right? They would understand that donors are important, not just because they're funding all of this, but because they're looking to find joy in their giving. And we have a responsibility for that. And that means we have to come up with great opportunities for them. We have to come up with offers that are inspiring, that have vision, that give them that sense of joy when they do fund those problems and projects that we have that we're trying to alleviate. So if you come from that space, that's when you can really have a culture of philanthropy. That's when you have staff people who are out in the field understands why you have donors come visit and look at what you're doing. They're not like, oh, we got a donor coming in. No, it's, hey, we're excited because we have a donor coming in and that donor is going to see what we do and it could change their life. So it's that kind of attitude. And even with like accounting staff, finance, they're integral into making sure that this is all working well, that we're paying our people well, that we're really showing the true costs of all the programs and projects that we have so that we can convey that to the donor. It's not just about the direct costs. It's also about what does it take to actually get this out in the field. So we need to show them the overhead and be transparent about that. And finance people who are really invested in and understand a culture of philanthropy will talk about that. And we'll be excited to talk about that with donors. And the donors will understand it because it's the only way that these programs will actually run, right? So you have to have that supportive environment for major gifts, for mid-level, for your direct response program to work. You can't run it without that because I've seen those organizations who think, oh, we'll just hire a major gift officer and we'll start bringing in a bunch of money. And then your major gift officer is like, well, what am I offering besides of operational expenses? What can I inspire my donors with? Oh, well, they're just going to love that we do X, Y, Z. Well, hold on. This donor actually is passionate about this part of our mission. What can we do to inspire them? Well, we don't have time for that. So those are the kind of things that really needs to happen within an organization to embrace that. Leadership has to embrace it. And without all of those people coming together, major gifts will not work. We see it over and over again. When you don't have program people that care about impact or sharing the impact or reporting on it, how can you get donors excited about that? So yeah, it takes everyone to really be excited about it to make major gifts work.
Yeah, I've been in those organizations where it's like what the organization does is confusing. And I feel confused. My donors are confused.
That's right.
And I can't, like you said, create that offer to them invest in a meaningful way. And I always like to ask my clients or people like, what is your true cost? Because out of the true cost, I can tell a story. But I need to understand, like, what does it take to implement this program?
Right.
And then I can create that offer or write a story of what it takes to serve the community that
Exactly.
you're in. And I think a lot of nonprofits need to focus on that. And also, Jordana Merkin was on my podcast a few years ago, and she talks about like internal clarity with messaging. And so having that internal clarity of what you are doing, so then your donors feel like they're a part of the mission.
Yeah. But you would have all of that if you if you really understand the full breadth of what your mission is, staff, your donors, the community, all of those together along with the thing that you're doing every day to change the world. You have that view, then you will do all those things. You will have that great internal dialogue. People ask, well, what are some things that we can do practically to create a culture of philanthropy that will support mid and major gifts within the organization? One of them is you have a staff meeting Invite your donors to monthly staff meetings that you already have. The best example I have of that, I worked with this hospital in Chicago. It was a children's hospital. And once a month, they would invite parents of some of the patients that had been through their care. And all the staff was there. We're talking doctors, fundraisers, finance people, everyone that could make, there was this huge auditorium. They start their meeting with parents talking about their stories. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. And it was transforming because people understood how important these patients and the donors were to everything that they were doing. So inviting them to staff meetings is really cool. Obviously, inviting donors to really get into and see what the program people are doing. And some organizations have such a great opportunity to bring their donors on a daily basis to be able to see, this is what we're doing. Here's how to do it. And then the staff embracing that, not thinking of it as, I don't want a donor here. No, you want those donors there to be able to see and get inspired by it. Another practical thing is to really make sure that your leaders are in constant contact with your donors, that they're reaching out to them. Because many times, if you're asking for a 6 or 7 figure gift, that donor wants to be connected to the head of the organization. So whoever is leading that organization has to be comfortable with donors and talking to donors. I once worked with an organization, this one woman who has been head of the organization for 20 some years. She just couldn't bring herself to making an ask. She just didn't feel like it was right for the leader to make a fundraising ask. So I spent a lot of time with her, coaching her, first telling her that donors actually want to give. They want to be asked. And you're actually denying the donor joy in their giving by not asking. And that little line really triggered something in her. And so we worked with her, and then we found a donor that really wanted to meet with her, and we set her up to make a $500,000 ask. This is somebody that she knew, but never asked for a gift. So she did great. She really was coached well, and she did a great job of leading that donor through and then making the ask for $500,000. What the donor said to her, the first thing they said was, I've been waiting for years for you to ask me that. Of course, I'm going to give you that $500,000, and I want to give you more, but I've been waiting for years for you to ask me. Well, she turned into a fundraising machine after that, because it was like, this is such a great experience for her that who's the next person I can talk to? Because she had the passion for the mission, obviously, but she just needed to change her thought around what the role of fundraising really is. It is unlocking joy in the donor. And that's what really turned her.
Hey there, podcast family. If you're like me and deeply committed to improving your leadership skills and fostering better connections with your team, I've got something truly amazing to share with you. I'm proud to introduce the EMC Masterclass, something I talk about often as a certified trainer. It's an incredible program developed by the renowned Dr. Lola Gershfeld, an organizational psychologist and corporate emotional connection expert. You might remember her from a podcast episode where she shared invaluable insights into the world of emotional connection. Dr. Gershfeld's EMC Leaders courses are designed for anyone working with people, whether you're a manager, supervisor, team leader, educator, coach, mentor, or a team member. This program is truly for everyone looking to enhance their communication and collaboration skills to raise more revenue for their mission. Now, let me tell you why the EMC Masterclass is a game changer. Dr. Gershfeld's groundbreaking emotional connection process has been integrated into top universities' curriculum and recognized by international organizations like ICF, HRCI, and SHRM. Humans are wired to seek emotional safety, and when we feel safe, we're more likely to take risks, share innovative ideas, and collaborate effectively. The EMC process is the catalyst for creating that emotional safety within your team. The virtual EMC masterclass consists of 8 modules with 4 hours of expertly recorded material, 13 quizzes to reinforce your learning, and a workbook filled with activities for offline practice and something I still refer to daily. Ready to become an emotional connection master? Dr. Gershfield is offering an exclusive detail for our podcast listeners. Use the code LEADWITHHEART to enjoy a generous 10% discount on the EMC Masterclass. Head over to emcleaders.com and enroll in the EMC Masterclass today. Wow, what a powerful story. And I've had CEOs similar and I mean board members or people just think fundraising is just about asking for money. But obviously, we know that there is so much involved other than just that one-way transaction of asking for money rather than a relationship. And that scares people away from wanting to ask. And they're like, we're just going to hire a fundraiser to do it.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it. But that doesn't support the major gift officer. So could you share some examples of how nonprofits can successfully integrate donors into the mission beyond just asking for money?
Bringing them into the daily work that you can, having them come see what you're doing is probably one of the best things that you can do. Sending them stories of impact is a huge thing. So we had one client that was building water wells in another country, and they would send simple like iPhone videos of a water well for the first time gushing with water, and then send it to a donor and say, you made this happen. How amazing would that be? Here you are having your coffee at Starbucks at 7 a.m, and you get this text and you see this water well gushing and someone saying, you made this happen. That's so powerful. So what a cool way to interact with a donor. And if the major gift officer or mid-level officers are doing their jobs well, they're really finding out who are their donors and what are they about. And developing a communication strategy through the whole year that's hitting on all of those things. Well, reporting back on the impact of specific things that they're giving to, giving them updates, knowing personal things about them, and sending them like an article. Let's say, hey, I have a donor who loves fly fishing, and I saw an article on fly fishing and I forwarded it to him, or I texted that article. Little things like that seem trivial, but they mean a lot to donors because, again, it's telling them how you know them.
Yeah.
So it's bringing them into this idea that I can trust this organization. They know me. They're trying to engage with me. So if you're doing that throughout the course of the year, you're building that up, engagement with a donor. Going back to the donor, seeing what, firsthand, taking them to the need. There's a lot of times where you're taking donors to on trips, especially if you're doing something in another country, and taking them right to the need and letting them see that. Those are very powerful things to do for a donor. And it's not just about the money, it's really changing their perspective on what's actually happening and why. So those have been really powerful. I've been on some of those trips. We've taken donors. I remember taking donors into the streets of St. Petersburg back in the 90s. There's a whole underground system, and there were 45,000 homeless kids living underground in St. Petersburg. So think of that situation, and then think about taking donors with you and actually going down under the streets and meeting these kids and having conversations with these kids. You can't leave a situation like that unchanged. So that's another way to really engage donors. Besides having them come volunteer and those good things, anything that can help engage them into the daily work of what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's where the CRM can be tapped into, right? Because you can track a lot of what are their interests and what
Absolutely.
what do they value? How do they want to engage in your organization? And then if you're there or if you hire someone else, like they can start off that relationship right away and get that insight into who the donor is.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's a powerful way to utilize what you're already paying for, which is a CRM, in a way that better off for everyone in the organization.
Yeah.
And a little bit earlier, you talked about investing in staff and major gift officers as part of the mission. And I truly believe in that. And the way a nonprofit treats its staff reflects its values. So
right.
In your experience, what are the key indicators of an organization that truly values its employees beyond obviously paying them well? And how does that impact donor relations and overall mission success?
I think one of the biggest indicators is just how long are your staff staying with you? If you're a good nonprofit that really cares about your staff, then you will see your staff there in the long term. Unfortunately, most nonprofits don't do that well. And so on average, we're seeing major gift officers jumping ship every 15 to 18 months. That is not good on so many levels. One, it reflects poorly on the nonprofit, but you never really develop relationships with donors if you've got a major gift officer leaving all the time. So I think best indicator for a nonprofit is how long are your staff staying with you? And what are you doing besides pay? Are you giving them time off? Are you giving them good attainable goals? Do they have a job description that's understandable? A lot of major gift officers really don't have a clear job description even. So they're involved in so many things. In other words, you might have a major gift officer who has 150 donors in a portfolio and they might have to have an overall revenue goal, but then they're being asked to help plan this event, they go to this meeting, you should attend this meeting. And now like over half of their time is doing stuff that has nothing to do with major gifts. Yet they still have these goals. So one of the best things a nonprofit can do to support their major gift officer is give them the time to work with donors. Don't include them in all these external, internal meetings. Don't make them do anything to plan for an event. They can invite their donors to the event and be at the event, but don't make them plan the event or clean up after the event. These people should be focused on their donors. This is what you're paying them for. And many times they get diverted.
Do you have any resources on what a typical major gift job description should look like?
We do. So on our website at veritusgroup.com, there's a resources tab. And under white papers, there is a list of all kinds of resources. Besides white papers, there is also planning tools and job descriptions for major, for support staff, all kinds of things all around mid and major gifts. Yeah.
That's great. And we'll make sure to link that in the show notes. And as we wrap up, a lot of the listeners of this podcast and subscribers to the LinkedIn newsletter are CEOs, founders, leaders of the organization. So are there any lasting thoughts or advice that you would give leadership to support and build relationships with not only their major gift officers, but also their major donors?
Yes. Do not be afraid to invest in this area of your fundraising program. That's what we see often, is that many nonprofits have invested a lot in their annual gift program or their direct response program, and they've done very little around the mid and major gift, other than maybe hiring a person to do it. But as we've talked about today, it takes a whole system, a whole village to make major gifts work. And to understand that if you're starting a major gift program too, it's going to take some time. It's not an overnight thing. This is why when we're working with organizations, we work with them at least for the first 3 years on this.
Oh.
Because it takes time to build that program, to build those relationships, and really to build the culture around it to support it. So we're in it for the long term. So understand, if you're a CEO and you really need to develop those other revenue streams, and mid and major gifts is the best area you can invest in, it will take time to do that. So you need to have the patience to not only invest in the right people, the right structure, the CRM that they're working with, but also the reporting back on the impact, thanking donors properly. All those things are important to make major gifts and mid-level work.
I love that. And aside from your website, where can people find you and the work that you do?
Well, they can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on social media. You can find us on our website at veritusgroup.com. You can send me an email and I will sit and talk with you and ask you what's going on with your program. All those things are ways that you can connect with us. We have a couple of books. I have a couple of books on Amazon. It's not just about the money and it's not just about the donor. These two books, as a leader, these would be great for you to read because they really do tell you how to set up your mid and major gift programs properly and how to manage the people that are really doing that work. So those are some areas of ways to connect with us.
And you have a podcast as well, right?
Yeah. We have a podcast that we're just ending called Nothing But Major Gifts. And we're starting a new one coming up in the next month called Real Talk with Real Fundraisers. So that'll be fun as well.
Well, I am excited to listen and follow along. Thank you so much for being here today. It has been such a joy getting to chat with you.
Thanks, Haley. It's been so much fun. I appreciate it.
If you have valued these stories or learned something from what you've heard, please share this podcast episode or follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support, and together we can build a better community and world.